Now I have been joined by Duncan Amoah, who's the Executive Secretary of COPEC. Good morning, Duncan.
Good morning, dear.
How are you?
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Are you refreshed from your holiday?
I didn't get enough sleep because
you had a whole day off.
My fuel price issues are still coming back to bite. So you probably end up worried a lot more as to why we would allow it to go. But hey, I'm sure something can be done. As something was done about the luxury levy, I'm sure something can be done about this one too. So we'll press deeper.
Okay. We've also been joined by Edward Tuttor, who is the convener of the Dynamic Youth Movement of Ghana. Good morning, Edward.
Good morning,
How
Dziffa.
are you?
I'm doing good.
How was your holiday?
It was okay. I watched movies throughout.
Nice.
Yes, and I was monitoring the controversies.
Which one? Founders versus founders?
Of course. Just a single apostrophe causing confusion everywhere.
Do you think it's just an apostrophe or it's rewriting of our history?
It just baffles me that an apostrophe. I wonder what a whole sentence could do in the near future, you know.
But Duncan, is it just an apostrophe?
Not at all.
Why?
That whole debate for me should be put to sleep once and for all. I have heard various shades of opinion, and what baffles me is that they talk about modern Ghana. The politics of Gold Coast probably is much different from the politics of modern Ghana, as in from 51, 54 when we had election, 57 when independence was declared and all of that. I'm quite certain that other people played a role, but it is quite not the exact, if one seeks to suggest that there are founders and not a founder, and others are thinking there's a founder and not founders. I would possibly go for the Kwame Nkrumah argument any day, because from the little you have read or we have read from our history books, it looks as though at the time the main reason of departure for him from the UGCC to form the CPP was ideological, as to the extent that he felt independence should be now for the people of the then Gold Coast. The UGCC probably believed that it should take a little while longer. So if you're asking for who really was looking for independence for Ghanaians, as around the 47, the 48 riots, the 51 elections, 54, there was only one person that Ghanaians possibly could defer to. At the time, for what you and I have read, the others felt that he was in a hurry, he was rushing. But he was able to achieve what he was rushing for. So when it comes down to the Gold Coast struggle to independence, yes, those people cannot be left out. But if you are talking of post-independence Ghana and not Gold Coast, I think that one person will stand tall any day.
Okay, but we're still celebrating all of our big six men. Because in the US, they celebrate all their founders, and I'm quoting our president here. That's not coming from me. Now we'll take a look at our actual story that we're going to discuss this morning. From the Daily Graphic, it says, forensic experts arrive in Takoradi. I'm reading from page 3. So a team of forensic experts and crime scene investigators from the police headquarters in Accra arrived in Takoradi yesterday as part of the process to unravel the mystery surrounding the missing Takoradi girls. Now, they found some skeletons in a house near Sam Wales's place, right? So they've dug up the skeletons and they are going to now check for some DNA. So the police is saying here, and I'm going to quote the Director General in charge of Public Affairs at the Police Service. He's saying that the discovery was as a result of ongoing efforts at examining several angles of the investigation. Okay, so they've been investigating this for almost a year now, or maybe 8 months, give or take. Claims that air confession or tip-off led to the discovery are untrue. Families of the 3 missing ladies in Takoradi were on Saturday engaged to assist with DNA samples as part of the investigations. The police, they go on to say that it will take about 4 weeks for them to complete it. But the family members are also speaking, and they seem to contradict what the police has said. So Alexander Kranche, who is the father of Priscilla Mantebia Kranche, says here, but there are many questions that need to be cleared by the police before we avail ourselves of anything. We need to get the police to tell us why in the past they claimed they knew the whereabouts of the girls and why they have turned to something else now. So in the past, you told us you knew where the girls are, and now you're saying you've discovered skeletons. So before we, cooperate with you on this whole DNA thing you've embarked on, you need to answer some questions. Mr. Francis Akon Bintum, who is also the father of Priscilla Blessing Bintum, is also saying the family will be watching the next line of action and also put our demands across. All the quest to find the girls. We will wait for the police to come and tell us what they want and what they think we should do, and we will take a decision as a family. So they're also saying they have questions, they want further engagement with the police before they are able to make a decision if they want to help the police with this investigation or not. And finally, we have Mr. Amos Kojo Obeng Teria, who is an uncle of Ruth Love Quason. He's saying we are willing to help the investigators and prepare for the outcome. However, we want the police to come clear the dark clouds surrounding the kidnapping. So it seems as though the families have a lot of questions. They've not had all the answers yet. So the police are saying in 4 weeks, they'll be able to get results from the DNA. Where exactly are they getting these DNAs from? So Duncan, first let me hear from you. This is a big discovery. It's about to be a year. Should we embrace it?
Let me say the Friday evening was a difficult one for some of us. I remember driving back home from some assignment I had gone on to, and then I heard the breaking news story across the networks, and that what the media actually reported earlier was to the extent that the bodies of these 3 girls have been found.
Oh yeah, that was some really wrong reports by
exactly.
some media houses.
And immediately, for someone as strong as I am, I broke down.
Wow.
And so I could imagine what this would be on a lot of Ghanaians, that some Canadians were kidnapped in similar fashion. We put our heads together, were able to find them safe and sound, were returned to their families. Unfortunately, when the Ghanaian lives mattered, the most we are told after a long run, the back and forth from the police CID, press statements from the Ministry of Interior, statements from the Gender and Women Minister and all of that, all the assurances. This is what we come back to tell Ghanaians. Trust me, for maybe the first time this year, I had tears welling up in my eyes that we have failed these girls. If indeed a suspect as crucial as those guys we probably had in our custody, it took us all these months to go searching, a thorough search of where they live and even the communities where they probably have operated from. If it took us all this while to search the very residence of one of these guys, then we have failed these girls bitterly. Could it have been possible that if the residence was searched earlier, maybe we would have found something? Something. But if we waited for all these months to now go back there, I don't think this is something very easy on the family, very easy on Ghanaians, because thinking about it, it could be me, it could be a little cousin, it could be a daughter, it could be anybody. And if you trust in the system or the security of the state to bring some justice to some of these things, and the only thing they come back telling you, in fact, through the media, is that some dead or some bodies, and what I also heard a twist was that they had been badly abused sexually. And I was wondering, bodies that you exhume from probably whatever, how did you
Skeletons,
determine, the sexual abuse and all of that? But here we are. The sensitivity of the system to the family, I don't think has been the best at all. The responsiveness of our security agencies to apprehending or possibly rounding up this matter for all of us has not been the best at all. So the family, over the past 1 year, I'm sure when they hear and knock on their doors, the first hope they get is that a daughter or somebody could be walking in to say, oh, we saw your daughter here. you know. They've gone through all of these emotional hiccups, only for us to go back there, do our search. We couldn't even cordon off the area and ensure that whatever forensics that ought to be done are done to confirm that these are indeed the bodies or the corpses of these girls. But we were in a hurry to rush the press. Look, I do not think that a civilized country would want to engage in this. We do watch a lot of the CSIs, you know, where these forensic guys go in, they do everything, even before they will give you an interview or they give a public statement on anything, they know their apples from their oranges. But it looks as though, well, either the police CID was in a hurry earlier to be media friendly by organizing a press conference and saying we know where the girls are, we know their whereabouts and we'll return them to their families, you know. And then when she is asked subsequently, she says she was given hope to Ghanaians. Is this the outcome of the hope? Clearly, it is a devastating moment for us in Ghana. I do think that our security agencies may need to restructure their own systems, their own responsiveness. Indeed, if a crime is reported to have been committed in, say, Tema, I do think that every single structure in Tema, over the next 3 days, 5 days, would have been a suspicious structure. I do think that if they had done their work thoroughly, they would have been minded to enter people's homes, individual homes. I'm sure with that sort of effort, the residents or the individuals in and around those communities would have seen some effort. You know, uncompleted structures, those are places that any investigator will suspect first and foremost. How that beat us for 1 whole year, we went round holding press conferences, talking to people, assuring families, assuring Ghanaians that these girls are safe. I was happy when the Canadians were found. And it gave me some hope that indeed our security agencies or apparatus are on top of their jobs. And these Ghanaian girls will be found in no time. Only for the other side to be told that, oh, your girls could be found only in... Look, Dziffa, I wish I wasn't the one talking about this, but that really broke me down on Friday. And the Saturday, I still had not recovered. So when I heard the family say that they probably will not cooperate or they are not ready to cooperate, you can easily understand them. It's been heavy on them. Our efforts at bringing back these girls seem to have been rather lackadaisical, seem to have been rather more of a talk shop than real action or effort on the ground. A suspect's uncompleted structure was not thoroughly searched for all this while. Dziffa, some people would ought to answer some questions to the police CID boss or the IGP or the Interior Ministry or the government of the day, because this is clearly not good enough as far as our security, arrangements are concerned. I am sad. I do not think that it is any easier on the other 30 million Ghanaians, more so the families who probably have had assurances over and over to be told this. Dziffa, we probably need to restructure our security responsiveness. Not just preparedness. Buying cars, retooling is okay. But responsiveness. When a crime is reported, what measures do we put in place? Do we cordon off, as we see happens in some of these countries out there? When there's a crime, an entire community could be, whatever. Until they are done with their searches, until they are convinced that whatever crime probably is still not here, and so we probably need to look at the bigger picture, those within the enclave are not left to go. Unfortunately, it's taken us 1 year back and forth. Dziffa, I'm sad. I do think that going forward, our security agencies may need to be a little more brisk, a little more responsive to some of these reported incidents. If the families had reported and if thorough checks had been done when these suspects were picked up, some of them have been picked up for 6 months. We are now searching their uncompleted structures. Not good enough, Dziffa. Okay. No, not good at all.
Thank you. Edward, let me come to you now on this one. The family, of course, it sounds as though some of them don't trust our policemen and women anymore. They don't even want to give their DNA for it to be tested, and some are even asking for an independent body to lead this investigation. They don't want the police to lead it. What lessons can our policemen and women learn from this experience as far as engaging with Ghanaians and empathizing with the very people whose case they are trying to solve.
All right, Dziffa, thank you very much. Let me say good morning to all our discerning viewers and listeners. As a matter of fact, I feel very melancholic anytime I have to talk about these study girls. When it comes to issues of security, as citizens, we need to address the issues dispassionately, irrespective of political inclinations. Look, the state has not accorded the due respect and urgency to this particular case right from the beginning. And this unseriousness has been endorsed by the president, unfortunately. And I'm going to tell you why. Just last week in Romania, a teenager, 15 years, negligently joined some stray bus, ended up being kidnapped, sexually abused, and got killed. The Minister of Education of Romania jumped to social media to condemn the girl, that she was negligent, and that if she had heeded to the advice from her school, she wouldn't have been killed by now. The Prime Minister immediately jumped to social media and condemned the minister and said what she has said is a personal opinion and not the position of the Romanian government. So the minister was forced to resign. Here we are, we have the primus inter pares of our CID, who came out publicly to come and say they know where the girls are, only to make a U-turn. And I'm surprised, I'm totally scandalized that from that gross incompetence alone, our commander-in-chief looked on and did not say even a word. To me, that is a subtle endorsement of what Madam Tiwa did. And I'm highly disappointed in the president for that. You see, the level of laxity and the unseriousness is what has been carried on to this forensic brouhaha. And let me tell you something. The forensic experts that have come, I'm telling them on authority that nothing will come out of it because the whole thing has been compromised. The results is not going to be credible. So I support the family when they say that they do not trust the Ghana Police Service and they don't think that any good thing can come out of it.
But you're not a forensic expert, so you can't make such statements on authority. Right?
Well, I'm going to give you my reasons.
Okay.
Number one, the residents there have testified on authority that the team that came, they came unprepared.
They had to borrow shovels.
They borrow shovels, pickaxe, and other tools. Meanwhile, we all know that when it comes to forensics, they are there to gather biodata. That is the basic thing. Because if you go and find mortal remains, finding it there does not mean that it was the suspect who placed it there. It needs to be established that traces of the suspect's biodata is actually connected to the samples that have been found. Until they're able to establish that, nobody can say because it was found within your property, it means you are the one who put it there. No. That's going to generate a whole lot of arguments and all that. So for them to come there unprepared, elsewhere, and what I know is before you deploy forensic tools, right from wherever they are coming from, they need to be disinfected, they need to be scanned, and the results of the entire tools need to be documented because somebody could go and implicate somebody. They make sure the tools are clean so that whatever information, whatever samples, whatever evidence that those tools are going to bring, the police itself is not going to compromise the results.
But at least, do you think what they coming to borrow a shovel from Duncan is different from identifying the skeleton, right? Whose skeleton it is? So there's still some merit to the work they are doing, even though they might have issues with resources.
Look, I'm sure that the shovel, somebody has used the shovel. It's not a brand new shovel.
Yes.
It's like somebody has used it. So somebody's biodata, fingerprints and all is already on the shovel.
Well, we were not there, so we couldn't see how they went about digging up the skeletons.
Fine. These are eyewitness testimonies.
Yes,
you understand? So
yes.
I really believe in that to some extent. So you use tools that have people's biodata on them already. Now, how are you going to establish that this sample that I've taken, it has this person's sample, it doesn't have this person's sample? How at all are you going to do it? So for me, the whole thing has been compromised. Now, secondly,
so the entire crime scene, you're saying, the entire crime scene was not treated as a crime scene at all.
Apart from the tools, there's something that beats my mind. You've arrested somebody for almost a year. Normally, when crime scenes are landed properties, the police guards the place until the crime is solved, until the case is over. And even after the case is over, fresh evidence could remain. So they still keep that landed property under strict vigilance. Now, just on Friday, the news broke out. People were walking all about. Media men were in the property. And I'm like, what is this? People are contaminating the place. Because as you walk and go, people could drop things. Look, the whole place was left unguarded. It was so unprofessional. And I'm like, did we go and bring some, I don't know whether they were police people who were there or not. The whole thing is shrouded in unseriousness. And I think that if the president had accorded the needed agency right from the beginning, people would have been on their toes. Officers would have known that, no, this is a high security issue that the president is very much concerned about. So we need to be up and doing. So now, you have brought forensic experts. So the team that went there to go and pick the samples, who were they? Clearly, it means the team that went to pick the samples were not forensic experts. They didn't know how to go and pick. You see, if they were forensic experts that were sent there, they would have gone to borrow shovels and pick.
Okay, on that note, we do have to go for a break, Edward. I have with me Edward Tuttor, who is the convener of Dynamic Youth Movement, and of course Duncan Williams, who is the secretary. I hope I got your last name right. Duncan Amoah, I don't know where Williams came from. Duncan Amoah, who is the secretary of COPEC. We're discussing some forensic experts finding skeletons in Takoradi next to the suspect's house. That's Sam Wales, who's connected to the missing Takoradi girls. After the break, we're going to discuss the closing down of Ghana Manganese Company Limited for some things they've been doing as well that makes absolutely no sense for 7 years. And we've discovered it and they've been closed down. But throughout the news review, if you have any questions, let us hear it with the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line 0550585832. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on CCTV. Thank you so much for staying with us. And I still have with me Duncan Amoah, who is the Executive Secretary of COPEC, and Edward Tuttor, who is the convener of the Dynamic Youth Movement. Now, of course, if you have any contributions or questions, we want to hear them with the hashtag Breakfast Daily, and the WhatsApp line is 0550585832. We'll move on now to our second topic. I'm reading from page 17 of the Ghanaian Times, and it says, government shuts down manganese coal for non-payment of taxes. So the Ghana Manganese Company Limited will from today stop operating following an order by government to cease operations due to, one, non-payment of taxes, as well as price and production manipulation from 2010 to 2017. So they've been doing this for seven years, actually, among other things. So the shutdown is also included in companies' failure to comply, but rather circumvent the local content policy. So remember the local content policy that's supposed to actually help more locals get involved in this sector. They were circumventing it at the expense of local contractors, which are owed millions of cedis. So I'm going to quote the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Kwaku Asamoah Chireme. He says here, GMCL, that's the Ghana Manganese Company Limited, GMCL has not shown strong commitment to value addition in particular. Right, so value addition is still connected to local content, which is supposed to help local contractors. There are also defaults by the company in the payment of annual minerals rights fees in excess of $4 million. So not only do they owe mineral rights fees, they also further manipulated sales between 2014 and 2015 in order to stockpile ore prior to adjusting the price downward by 68 cents. So something that's supposed to be like $1, they adjusted the price down to 68 cents. So because of all these issues, the company has been instructed to shut down effective today, August 6, 2019. Now, Duncan Amoah, I'll start with you, Mr. Amoah. Is there a way we could have seen this from afar? Is there a way we could put in systems to prevent people from getting away with these kinds of things? So it's been 7 years. They've been doing this and getting away with it. Over $4 million in fees and millions of cedis owed local contractors.
You see, again, the unseriousness of the Ghanaian, like my brother had indicated. I don't know if it's a curse or something, but anything with the name Ghana to it seems to fail, collapse, or get mismanaged, or gets, into some financial trouble at the end of a period.
But we're the good kids in a bad neighborhood. When you compare us to the rest of the African countries, we seem to be like the poster child.
You see, what the resources we are endowed with, we seem to have everything yet nothing. And so if we had sat for a company like Ghana Manganese for 7 years to run riots, I wonder if they even put their audited accounts together at the end of the year for anybody to see. I wonder if those in charge of revenues for the state are even interested. And so we sit for 7 good years for some managers, some group of persons to do their own thing. And then we go in Rambo fashion to say we've closed down. How does the closing down bring us whatever is due the state? And Dziffa, I have had on occasion to be worried about revenue generation or collection in this country. We would allow a bigger chunk of revenues that is due the state to go, and then we come back to the same 400,000 or 800,000 or 1 million Ghanaians who are already paying taxes to add on more taxes. So I have, if you recall last week, I had an issue critically with how much we are allowed to go down the drain.
How much taxpayers?
Yes, how much is due the state that we are allowed to go uncollected, and then we will come back to Dziffa's salary after paying SNIT, after paying GRA pay as you earn. We will come back and add further taxes to Dziffa, who is already in the system contributing. And so clearly, either we now as a state should begin to sign people on for performance, right? And move away from this whole political wholesale appointments. Because you put people in there, they feel they've been rewarded. In fact, it is one of the few places in the world where political appointments come as rewards, to people for either contributing to a political discourse or financing a certain political agenda. But people are not put in there to go and turn fortunes around. They are not put in there because Edward probably has some expertise in security matters. And so if I put Edward there, the little knowledge or, expertise could be brought to bear. I'll put Dziffa there knowing that Dziffa has no idea what the word security even means because she contributed. And so once we continue to do these things, the companies within the state, the companies affiliated to the state or joined to the state in one way or the other will fail. Meanwhile, in the same extractive space, Newmont is making money. Others are making huge returns, paying their taxes, are able to even go on to do corporate social responsibility programs. Yet, when it comes to where it matters most for all of us as a country, we allow it to slide through our fingers, and then we'll come back to Dziffa another week, a year after, to say that revenue shortfalls. In fact, I do not think that Ghanaians would need to be taxed any further than we are. There is actually a video from the US Senate, one of the senators whose name I quickly cannot recall, who said that the biggest problem for emerging African countries has to do with taxes. Dziffa, if jobs are not being created, it is a function of overtaxing. In fact, he goes ahead to say that the companies, the multinationals like Nike, Adidas, the big players are interested in siting factories at places where they can find cheap labor. The African markets provide cheap labor. Because we don't even pay too well. People in Ghana, some earn 250 Ghana cedis, less than $50 a month, a whole month. And so these companies would have been very happy to move their production down here. Unfortunately, once you put in $1, the taxes that you will be forced to pay sometimes could be higher than $1. So they do not set up in Africa. They rather go to China. where they are protected. Instead of our leaders to think about the negative effects of overtaxing, they are always adding on. And at the same time they are adding on, the resources that is due them continues to slide. And Dziffa, I have said, if our leaders do not open the tax net wider than it currently is, a time might come where your incomes at the end of the month, you would go home with less than 50% because SNIT is taking you about 18.5. This is taking about 5%. This is taking you about 4%. Before you put all together, how much has gone back to the state? It's in the region of 40%. And yet, we continue to add taxes to Dziffa's consumption of petrol, of other things that probably should get her to and from work. Clearly, if people are not brought to book in some of these instances, 7 good years, no tax whatsoever declared. If it's a private business person, I'm sure some of us would have been sent to court by now. Mm-hmm. Who is being taken to court? Or the closure means closure. Everybody should go home. We'll put in a new board. You know, so garbage in, garbage out. Another set comes, they come and lament and complain about the problems they inherited and why they cannot do things professionally or more efficiently. And then the cycle continues. And Dziffa, at the end of the day, may be forced to pay for some of these lapses. When people were caught ball watching, did nothing, and at the end of the day, when there are revenue loopholes or not enough revenue generated, we will come back to everybody in Ghana and say, oh, we need more taxes. Clearly, we are taxing ourselves into poverty. And that, I think, should be the biggest challenge for us as Ghanaians currently. If any leader comes to promise me developing everything in Ghana in 4 years, I wouldn't believe it. But promise me that you do know the exact economic fundamentals that will propel growth, that will propel the likes of Nike and Adidas to set up here and pick 10,000 people to run some of those, facilities or factories. If you do not do these things, and it is tax on, tax on, tax on, tax on, whereas people continue to engage in fuel smuggling. Mm-hmm. Billions are allowed to go. Mm-hmm. And we'll come back to Dziffa and take her 20 cedis or 10 cedis because Dziffa is vulnerable. Dziffa is decided to be law-abiding. Dziffa decides to be a good citizen. The very good citizens are rather suffering. Okay. The bad ones, like Ghana Manganese, they get away. 7 years, no tax.
Okay. So, Edward, in light of Founders Day, Nkrumah once said that the black man can lead his affairs. And Ghana was supposed to be that country that was supposed to show the entire world that the black man can lead his affairs. And we don't need any colonial people here to give us low-level jobs. We can be at the top of our own materials, be it raw materials, be it cocoa, whatever, and we'll be able to add value enough for the entire country to benefit. And we are here today talking about shutting down Ghana Manganese Company Limited because for 7 years they've been operating with non-payment of taxes as well as price and production manipulation.
That's right.
Why?
This is a very big question you've asked, and I don't think I have the answer for you, but I'll just tell you
How did we even get here as a people?
I think that basically, the problem with Ghana, for that matter, Africa, it's not economics. It's not economic know-how. It's not about having PhD in economics or having first-class degree in economics. No, it's about attitude.
Okay.
The attitudinal underpinnings in our psyche. It's not pro-development.
But it's the same Ghanaians who go abroad and they do really well and excel in whatever environment they're in. And they don't do things like this.
Psychologists have said that for you to develop, it depends on two things. Your environment and the type of socialization that you receive from your upbringing. Now, these two things will ensure how you are going to act as an adult. Consistently, we keep proving that we are not capable or we are not ready to develop. Because as Duncan has said, we keep taxing, we keep collecting the revenues, but we don't even see what we do with the revenues. Look, what is going on is another evidence that regulation in Ghana is a big joke. There needs to be a swift departure from reactive regulation to proactive regulation. The law knows that when you leave people on their own, they are going to misbehave. people are going to commit infractions. People will not like to abide by basic rules and regulations. That is why there's a regulator. And you see, this emanates from the basic reason why, the basic rationale, why we even set up what is called government. Look, philosophers from the 14th century, like John Locke and co., they came together and said, no, coming from Darwin's theory of
survival of the fittest.
Survival of the fittest. People always like to cheat people that they are stronger than. People like to infringe on other people's rights. People, because you are strong and you are capable. So society is going to be a big chaos if we do not have one centralized organization who we are all going to entrust our power to, that he should ensure that rights are going to be protected, institutions are going to perform, life is going to be protected, and when you work hard and you acquire property, that person or that organization should be able to what? To protect you, so long as you do not acquire them illegally. That is why all of us have assented to, in principle, to a constitution that we've all agreed that our in and out in the country should be in strict compliance to the rules that we have set for ourselves.
Yeah, but the government has done its work.
Now,
they've shut it down.
Now, it is sad that over here in Africa, and for that matter, Ghana, the very people who have been given the people's mandate to ensure compliance, to do the right things in the public interest, these are the same people who are leading the charge in violating the very laws that empower them to do the right thing. And it is very sad. If you have a regulator, there are two levels of regulation. Before you can operate, you need to be incorporated. Now, there are rules and regulations that govern companies. Okay. Secondly, before you can operate in a particular sector, the regulator ensures that you meet certain standards and you are being monitored. Okay, you are being monitored, and this is not reactive that they just sit somewhere and they just appear. No, look, you need to publish your accounts. They need to come up with policy directives, and they ensure that everybody operating in that sector sort of complies with the directives. But from the banking sector, from the oil sector, energy, look,
natural resources,
everywhere, we just sit down, and it seems as if regulation comes to mind only for two reasons: vindictiveness, and number two, when yenchendi goes bad. Okay, when normal sorting that goes on, yeah, oh, okay, this guy has come, he feels that he's principled, he wants to go by the law. Okay, move in and make sure that we stop everything.
But what
that
about
is when regulation comes to mind here in Ghana.
Edward,
and
what
it's
about
very
holding
sad.
people accountable? So yes, we've had this situation. Should we have a second, should the minister come out, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources come out and say, these are the individuals we will be holding accountable for this? You rightly mentioned the collapse of the banks, right? Till date, we've not really heard a list of people at Bank of Ghana who sat by and allowed this happen. Should we apply this so that we set an example out of these individuals that you can't just go somewhere, turn a blind eye to monies being lost to the states? Day in, day out, we're going outside begging money to develop. Meanwhile, we are not even able to get the revenue we need because some people are not doing their jobs. Should we start taking the accountability thing a bit more seriously?
Look, you and I don't have the capacity to take action on this matter. We can only talk. Now, the Minerals Commission, which is the regulator, has been given every power by the state. They were established by an act of parliament. The person or the very people, which is the parliamentarians, that also had the power to enact the law, were also given power from the constitution. So the very purpose of we having governments, of having regulations, having the right to enact laws, those very rationales have been defeated simply because those who are supposed to take action are not taking. For a whopping 7 years, a company does not abide by simple regulations, and we just look on. This is so embarrassing, you know. And sometimes I shudder to think, what if all of us one day we just rise and say no? The reason why we have government in the first place, we are not getting the benefit. So there needs to be an overhaul. There needs to be restructuring. We need to make sure that going forward.
But don't we restructure every 4 years?
No, the restructuring, I'm not talking about
The democracy restructure?
I'm talking about our democracy.
Okay.
It looks like the democracy we are enjoying, quote and unquote, is a useless one because we are not getting the benefit. People who are being paid to act are not acting. And when trust you me, in the few weeks, you will come back and hear that they want to now resource this particular company to start work all over again. They are going to dissolve the board. New members are going to come. And all the things that they are going, just like the banking sector, you and I, our task is going to use. And what even annoys me is that Bank of Ghana came to say that it was a loan. Cleaning up. They went for a loan to do that cleaning up.
Well, they have to
with interest that future generations are going to be paying. You see?
For what are you securing?
So
the interest, wrap up for us. Depositors, me and you.
So who has stopped the depositors' funds?
It just tells me that we as citizens, we have the final decision to make.
Okay.
And we must hold the feet of duty bearer to the fire of accountability. It shouldn't be we, the people who only come, who are privileged to come and speak. Yeah. Everywhere, right from the grassroots.
Just like we did with the parliamentary.
Yes, let's hold our leaders accountable because we have the right to.
Thank you. Now, we've received some messages from you at home that I want to read. This is from Ali Abdul Latif. He says, are we safe in Ghana? This Takoradi missing girl issue shouldn't sway our sense of justification. Those human remains that were found in the manhole should raise an alarm to the spate of insecurity in this country, whether it emerged that it is not the girls or not. So if he's trying to say that if it turns out that the skeletons are not those of the girls, we should still be worried because whose skeletons are those? The fact still remains that human beings had been killed and dumped into a pit, and police has a serious question to answer with regards to this human remain. Miss Host, are you aware of how long it took the family or families to report to the police the incident of the missing girls? Are you also aware that the family or families had been communicating with the suspects without the police, and all these have all implicated investigations? Yes, we are aware. This is coming from Eric in Kumasi. Good morning. This investigation should not take more than 3 weeks. I'm Amoah from Savelugu. I always get sad when we all keep blaming the police instead of educating people on what to do in case their relative is missing. Though we can't take the police out of the whole issue, but the relative of the missing people have to, okay, I don't think you necessarily blame the victim. We also need to get away from blaming people Abu. Okay, they did what was best, and the police, it's supposed to serve us, right? They're supposed to investigate things and help us get closure. It's kind of like saying the Canadian girl's family shouldn't have allowed them come to Ghana in the first place. That's why they were kidnapped. That's not the right thing to do, okay? Now we'll take a look at our final story. And of course, if you have any more questions, let us know with the hashtag Breakfast Daily, and the WhatsApp line is 0550-585-832. COPEC eyes meeting with government over ESLA increment. So I'm reading from citynewsroom.com, and it says here, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers says it is pushing for a discussion with government this week for the scrapping of the increase in the energy sector levies. That's the ESLA. The chamber earlier announced that its members will protest at the Finance Ministry to ensure the new levy is scrapped if dialogue fails. But Duncan Amoah, the executive secretary of COPEC, who happens to be sitting right next to me, again says his outfit will do everything possible to get the decision reversed. Should I quote you, or you go ahead and explain for us?
Dziffa, we can talk about it. What is important here is that this is not the first time COPEC is taking on something. If you recall, in 2015, 2016, when ESLA was introduced, we had decided as a unit to even take the then government to court. Our lawyers, Nana Ejeba for Ewa, had done everything except to say that Parliament had also approved, and that if we're going to sue, we're going to have to sue Parliament. And so we rescinded. But our dialogue with the then government pointed to the fact that ESLA was going to be for 5 years. ESLA was not going to be a permanent fixture of our fuel pricing. And that ESLA was for a specific arrangement, which is a debt overrun that had been accumulated. Again, we understood them from the perspective that because we had moved from a regulated fuel pricing regime to a deregulated fuel pricing regime, we were not going to come up with, debts overhangs. And so the understanding was that 5 years we were going to be done. Unfortunately, after 3.5 years of paying the then debt of 1.7 billion, after 3.5 years of collecting over 14 billion from you and I, the debt that is at 1.7, we should today have shrunk to about maybe 100 or 120, for which we would have another year to pay off. The debt has ballooned from the 1.7 to 2.2 to 2.7 to 3.5 to 3.8 to 4.2 to now about 5.6 billion, Dziffa. Clearly, it is not our paying of taxes that will solve this debt, from what we have come to understand. Because it is more like collecting the water in your bedroom whilst the tap that is feeding the water is still opened. And so you will collect maybe a bucket every 10 minutes. The tap is producing 20 buckets every 10 minutes. It's only a matter of time before you drown. And so if you look at the 2019 budget review, what the finance minister sought to do was to get about 6-point-something billion from Parliament again to go and pay about 5-point-something billion debt in the energy sector. Unfortunately, that is going to be a drop in the ocean, because as you pay down, you increase the sources that generate the debt. Mm-hmm. And so we are saying that we are going to have to meet the finance minister and point out ways of cutting down these wastage within the energy stream. If you cut down the wastage, if you secure such that there won't be losses, if you secure such that there won't be political decisions, such as what we saw last year, where instead of power prices going up, we rather came to tell Ghanaians we have reduced. When you reduce and you create debt overruns, Dziffa, should I have to bear it as a trotro driver? So these are things that would need to be resolved once and for all. If we are not resolving them, the only thing we are doing now is that we'll be throwing our breadcrumbs into the bottom of the ocean, expecting that it would pile up to a point and we'll be able to diffuse the water, whatever. It won't ever happen. And so taxing our way through ESLA, going for energy bonds, 10 years, 20 years, it's only a way of telling you and I that we are not going to finish paying these debts until the next 10, 20 years, 30 years.
What should be the alternative?
Dziffa, energy anywhere in the world thrives on numbers. I have said this repeatedly. Yeah. Your input, output, your feedstock, your revenue.
But are we in a country where we measure our input by output?
In fact, we do the political decisioning instead of the economic deciding. Instead of deciding that the cost of a liter of fuel right from the refinery in Amsterdam is 2 cents. If I add 2 cents of taxes, I should go to 4 cents, for which I sell at the pumps. In the past, it used to be 2 cents. Let's sell it for 1 cent. The government will pay the other 1 cent. That was a regulated regime. So government announced fuel prices. Now government realizes that I cannot control fuel prices, so let me deregulate. That is a bold step on the side of petroleum. Mm-hmm. Can government deregulate the prices of energy or power so that we stop creating the mess that we create at VRA, at Gridco? Now PDS has come to add to ECG and all that you can possibly imagine. So whilst we continue to create debts, we come and collect money and the debts are escalating. Okay. Clearly, we will not get to the end of this. And the finance minister should hear us out. If he doesn't, we will be forced to go and sleep there this time, like we have indicated. There won't be a demonstration. There will be a sleepover picketing. We'll go and sleep over till he realizes that when you increase fuel by 1%, it kills jobs in your economy. It is negative on the government itself. They haven't taken time sometimes to analyze the impact of fuel price increases.
Thank
Dziffa,
you
we would express all
very
of what
much.
we know to them. If they don't listen,
Unfortunately, Edward, Duncan took up
Edward, I'm
all of
taking
your
all your
time.
time. Oh, no
So
problem.
next week when you come, you'll take up all of his time. I was joined by Edward Tuttor, who's the convener of the Dynamic Youth Movement, and of course, Duncan Amoah, who's the executive secretary of COPEC. Thank you both so much for being with us. It's always an honor to have both of you on Tuesdays.
Oh, yes.
it's a pleasure seeing you.
Thank you at home for joining us. Don't go anywhere. Breakfast Daily will be right back.